Hey there. So for those of you who don't know, Cyberpunk 2077 just came out with some more new gameplay and information. And it's pretty interesting as it's the most up-to-date version of Cyberpunk that we've seen yet, and some of the deepest look at the game we've been able to get a grasp at as of yet. So I want to talk about it with you guys here today, so let's get started. Also, just a heads up guys, so you know, I haven't actually played the demo. So I'm only at 700 subscribers and let's be honest, that's not happening. But I have watched all of the different gameplays from multiple sources and listened to people talk through their experiences. So I definitely have a good idea of what to expect and what they played. And I wanted to talk about my impressions of what I've seen so far. Because quite honestly, from what I've seen so far, this game looks really sick. And I'm hoping that it can live up to the enormous expectations that the audience has set upon it. But there were also some things I saw in the gameplay that was recently released that has me a little bit concerned. And I wanted to talk about those things as well with you guys here today and kind of temper expectations for a game that I'm truly hoping is great. So first of all, let's just talk about the obvious, and that's the art direction. This game looks amazing. Whether that's the night sky being cast against a city with bright lights and neon lighting signs everywhere, or that's being in an expanded desert and seeing in all directions nothing but barren wasteland. Wherever you are in Cyberpunk, it seems like, at least from this gameplay, it's going to be a treat to look at. Character models are obviously improved from CD Projekt Red's previous games like Witcher 3, and overall texture quality on models, even as small as little cans in the corner of the screen, are very good. And just overall, the graphics in the game are top notch, and you can tell that CD Projekt Red put a lot of their funding into making this game look next gen, and it definitely shows for it. I'm glad we're finally getting a better look at the nighttime sequences and underground areas as well. As I remember when Cyberpunk was first announced, I was almost concerned because of how bright and happy it looked. But rest assured, based on this new gameplay, there are dark, grungy corners to this game world where you can go into clubs and there are bright lights, loud music, and deceptive characters that really set the mood that I think we've all come to expect from the cyberpunk genre.
Don't come here often, do ya? It's good to see you, cabron.
And really, this just lends itself to a very immersive and in-depth atmosphere. It seems like just walking around Night City is a treat in and of itself, and looking at all the new characters and people that just look sketchy seems like it'd be a fun thing to do regardless of the quest lines and stories involved. But what I do want to say is, it doesn't seem like the world is quite as alive as I remember them showing us when they first revealed Cyberpunk. I remember at the original reveal 1 hour trailer that you would walk into the city and there were hundreds of people walking all around you, and this was a big selling point they hit on. But now it seems like they've dialed this back a little bit, and the game definitely feels alive and there are people everywhere doing things, but it's been dialed back and you can tell. And I'm guessing a large portion of this is because this game needs to hit previous gen consoles, which I'm not sure how they're even gonna run this, to be honest. Another thing that I noticed as well is it seems like the build and 4K videos they've released of this gameplay don't have ray tracing on. Some of the ambient occlusion and spectral lighting in a lot of the scenes look great, but they don't look RTX on great. And I'm wondering why that was done, and I am concerned that it might be due to massive frame drops, especially on current gen cards, but hopefully with the next gen Nvidia likely coming soon, and graphics just improving with the next gen consoles as well, those versions of Cyberpunk will have more obvious sources of ray tracing that make the game look that much better. But besides the graphics, the next most notable thing shown off in this gameplay trailer was the gameplay. And I have to say, overall, I have mixed feelings on what I saw. The vehicle controls looked better than I was expecting, and I've heard some people say they like them and some people say they don't, but that's better than what I thought it would be, where everyone hated them. Overall, the gun models look great, the animations look great when fighting, but some of the scenes where we actually saw first-person combat weren't very mesmerizing in my opinion. When you see your character boxing those two guys out in the center of the street, it's okay, it seems passable, but there's a lot of clipping that's happening with the camera where it's jolting around very quickly as you're boxing, and it's just very disorienting. And obviously this combat system, at least in first-person combat, isn't as up to snuff with, say, something like Dark Messiah. On top of that, some of the gunplay, it looked very good, especially for a studio that is doing their first round of gunplay in a game. But some of the scenes were just janky. There's a part where V jumps up on a container platform and he's trying to throw a grenade at some bad guys down below, and these guys are just lighting him up as he's throwing the grenade. He's barely taking damage. The grenade goes down, and the AI just doesn't seem very intelligent from the scenes we've seen. But once again, this is something that you would need to actually play the game to really get a feel for. But the scenes they have shown off, which they did choose to show off, aren't that impressive in terms of actual gameplay. But what I will say is CD Projekt Red has never really been known for their top-notch gameplay. I personally did not like the sword fighting in Witcher at all. So I have to say, it looks like they've just made strides, made improvements where they could, especially for their first foray into first-person combat. But overall, it looks a little janky, and I'll have to get my hands on the game to have a really true, honest opinion on what I think. Beyond this, something else we saw in the trailer was a lot of dialogue and characters that you meet and are conversing with throughout the story, seemingly. And what I have to say on this is the character models look great. The characters look very interesting and have big personalities, which I personally like in my games. But one thing I'm very concerned about that I saw in at least these trailers is there doesn't seem to be a lot of dialogue options and or variety. There's some scenes where you're out in the outskirts of Night City talking to the sheriff, and there's really only one or two options in most of your engagements, and they all sound the same. Your character seems to have a sort of set path, kind of like Geralt, a set personality that you can very slightly change, but there doesn't seem to be the role-playing elements so far, at least from what we've seen, from, say, a game like Mass Effect or Dragon Age. It seems to be more Geralt with a few options spread throughout. We've also seen a little bit of the inventory management screen. It kind of looks clunky just from looking at it, and from what I've listened to, most people seem to not be huge fans of the inventory management screen. But overall, that's not a huge concern, as there does sound like there are a lot of different perks and ways to customize your character. That way you can play the way you want to. And that really gets to the meat of what I want to talk about in this video. Because so far from what I've seen from Cyberpunk, it really does look like an awesome game. But I still have a lot of concerns on exactly whether this game is a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. Because while the game looks great and the atmosphere is spot on in a lot of these scenes, I don't know if it has that magic that really sets certain games apart, like The Witcher 3. And I think we'll only truly know when we're able to get our hands on the game itself. For example, one of the things I'm most excited about for this game is a kind of Deus Ex, Dishonored, Prey-like gameplay, where you can solve different missions by hacking, sneaking, fighting, or just coming up with certain problem-solving methodologies to get your way out. And while we've seen this in certain missions, we still aren't sure how involved this is. Is Cyberpunk going to be like Deus Ex, where you can move boxes and find hiding spots and hack through things and hack into people and get through? Or are they overselling that part a little bit? Because to me, what would make this game top notch is having the atmosphere it's already proven to have, on top of meaningful and emergent gameplay that I've come to love from recent games like Prey. And even furthermore, it needs to have the story and the characters and the depth that is the reason people fell in love with CD Projekt Red in their Witcher series. Ideally, Cyberpunk will be able to pull this off, and obviously they are trying to make a hugely lofty goal. I am sure they are going to fail in some aspects. They are going to let people down in certain ways, especially with the hype as big as it is right now. But from what I've seen in the gameplay, I'm very hopeful that they at least have a chance at pulling it off. There are some things I'm concerned about. The crowds aren't as dense as I remember. The combat looks a little clunky, and just some of the certain graphical glitches here and there are a little concerning. But CD Projekt Red did delay their game. They have time to make necessary fixes. And all we can hope is that the core game they have already made, that being with emergent gameplay, missions, mission structure, stories, and character, shine through. Because at the end of the day, Witcher had faults too. Witcher 3 was a 10 out of 10 masterpiece for most game reviewers across all of YouTube and the media. And it wasn't a perfect game. Witcher had issues, but it had heart, and that's why people loved it. And hopefully, Cyberpunk will show to have that as well. And that's not something that you can really truly know from just watching videos. But hopefully you guys found it interesting, kind of hearing my take on the new Cyberpunk gameplay and just what we've seen so far. Let me know down below what you guys thought of it. Were you concerned by what you saw? Were you excited? And how do you feel overall about where Cyberpunk 2077 is going? Are you excited for the release coming out? Have you tempered your expectations? I'd really like to know, guys. But thank you very much for watching me. I really appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want, feel free to smash that like button. Go check me out on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm basically on all social media. And thank you guys so much for the support recently. The channel's been growing a ton. I honestly, I got the most amount of subscribers in a week I've ever gotten recently. The fastest video to 1,000 views ever. So I can't say thank you enough, guys. I really do appreciate it. So I'll keep working hard, making videos I'm really interested in. And hopefully you guys keep enjoying them. So I'll see you guys all next time.